All right, I wanted to walk through the setup for a new blog that I'm creating for a product that a friend and I are creating called MediaBox. So when we set out to create a blog for this, it's part of our marketing push for the product that we're hoping to launch in the coming weeks. And we wanted a blog that we could host, hopefully for free, because MediaBox is a free app and we don't expect to make any real revenue at all. So what we'd like to do is use tools that are free. We also want a lot of flexibility. And one of the key criteria for the blog, and I'll show you what we've built so far, is that at the end of each of the posts, so we want a really clean look first of all, and then I'd say the second big requirement is at the bottom of the post I want to be able to have a sign up form, so a quick little spot where you can enter an email address and subscribe. And I want that to be linked to my lists in Mailchimp. So I want Mailchimp to be able to collect email addresses so that when it comes time to do the big launch for MediaBox, we can send out an email blast letting people know that the app is ready to launch. Also want to look into the possibility of using that same list to send out blog post reminders when we light up new content on our blog. So the idea is that over the coming weeks, we'll be posting weekly updates to the blog. People can read about behind the scenes making of the app, learn a little bit about the numbers, and then again, we'll get that email blast when we go and launch. So we're hoping that this blog can help drive traffic to the application on that big first launch day. So after searching around and looking at WordPress, looking at Squarespace, which costs a little bit, WordPress, I wasn't too impressed with the themes that I could find for free. And then looking at my current blog, which is, let's go to it now, which is actually hosted on aalittle.com, and it's a subtle blog, the Dustin Curtis blogging platform. It's a great platform. I absolutely love it. And again, you'll see that it's a very clean design. The problem with this platform is that there's no flexibility. So I'm not able to go and add the sign-up form that I'd hoped to add to the blog that we've gotten right here. So that brought me around to something called Octopress. So Octopress is a great blogging framework that's built on top of Jekyll, which is another web framework, all open source. And what I found that was really amazing to me is that I can go ahead and deploy an Octopress blog on a GitHub instance. So I can actually host it on GitHub for free. So that's what I'm doing. So if we flip over to my aalittle account, I've got a GitHub site, aalittle.github.io, and that's where all the blog assets live and can be hosted directly from there. So we'll get into a little bit more of that later, but what was great about Octopress is that you can publish things using Markdown, which is what I'm used to, so very simple blogging syntax, and then I can also configure it. So I have the ability to layer in different widgets and also write HTML directly into different areas like the header, the footer, the article body, all kinds of control that I have there. So it seemed to have everything that I need. So I just wanted to capture a few of the steps, setup steps. And again, the documentation is really good on both Octopress and GitHub for getting these types of things set up. So probably following through the documentation would be just fine. I just wanted to quickly highlight a few things that I ran into. So obviously the first thing you need to do is get set up, install Ruby, which it already was on my machine. You're going to clone Octopress, so you're actually just going to take the framework, the Octopress framework, clone that to your local machine, and then you're going to start running a few installation steps to get things all hooked up. So you're going to run the install bundler, and this is where I actually ran into trouble. So I could get everything in until step 3. So bundle install was failing for me. Now I've got a particular setup, a MacBook Air running Mavericks, and it just so happens that seemed to have an issue where this bundle install step would fail because it couldn't find ruby.h. To resolve this took a lot of digging, and it was difficult to find the solution, but in the end what I found was upgrading Xcode to the absolute latest, which I think is 5.03. Let's take a look. Was the trick that I needed to get this working. Now I'm not sure, for those who don't have Xcode and don't have access to the developer portal, this version of Xcode isn't even available, so I'm not exactly sure how you'd work around it, but that's what it took for me to work around it. So so that was just a lot of digging and a lot of hours lost, but it was a simple solution in the end. Then a rake install and you're good to go. So then the next step is setting up the deployment. So that that right there just installed a plain vanilla Octopress installation on your local machine in the directory that you specified. So for me, that's in documents, dev, and then Octopress. You're going to see it there. So here's all the stuff that got deployed, or installed, I should say, with those previous steps. So now you have to decide where to deploy. They've got some great suggestions here, but I chose GitHub pages. I love GitHub. I find it a really clean service, easy to use. Their documentation's great, so I decided to go with that. And then I followed through the very simple directions that they have on the Octopress website. So really, it just came down to calling this rake setup GitHub pages. And then basically every time you need to update your website, then you're going to call rake generate and then rake deploy. So the thing you should know about Octopress is that you're going to be working with a lot of, let me see if I can pull up, I'll pull up the folder, my Octopress site. And what you're going to find is that you'll be working with a lot of static files, and working in Markdown, working in SAS, and then what you're going to do is every time you make some updates to the site, you're going to call rake generate. And what this is going to do is it's going to run through all the static assets that you've got in your Octopress site and actually build out the HTML that backs it, so that you end up with a static website that you can actually deploy to GitHub. So you're working with these really nice Markdown files, which makes it really easy to work with your blog, but then at the end, you're calling rake generate, rake deploy to actually generate the static website and then deploy it to GitHub. So it is really quite a simple workflow, and I'll walk through some of the different structure of an Octopress site just to sort of give you a sense for that. So then really after you do rake generate, rake deploy, then you're going to commit and push your changes out to GitHub so that you don't lose them. And your website should be up and ready to go. And so what we'll see is I've actually got my site at aalittle.github.io, which is the GitHub served URL. I didn't make any changes there, and it's all live. Again, static content, but driven from a really nice set of Markdown files and such. So now let's walk through the structure of the site real quick. So I really don't know all of the ins and outs to an Octopress site. I've kind of had to flow through it sort of on my own, but there is, again, great documentation. Where I spent a lot of my time was in the config YAML file. So here you've got some of your main configuration that you're going to want to play with. So you've got the title of your blog, subtitle, the author, and some of these things are used in different themes. So that's something else I should mention, is that you've got a broad range of Octopress themes that you can access. So I think the site that I used was right down here. Now there's quite a few that show the themes. Yeah, Op Themes, I think Octopress Themes was the site that kind of showed a nice visual along with. So basically you just pick the theme that you like. In my case, I ended up going with something really clean, but there's lots of really good ones here. And then basically when you find something that you like, trying to find the one that I actually used, I think it was LeanPress. If you go to their GitHub site for the theme itself, it'll show you exactly how to install that in an Octopress website. So all you do is go into your Octopress folder, clone the repo for the theme, rake install the theme name, and then rake generate again. That's going to regenerate your site based on the theme that you just chose. So you can actually retheme the site with just a couple of commands, and then again, you'll probably have to come in and do some final configuration for that, but pretty simple stuff. Some other things that I would go in and do is give my username for the various services that I'm going to, third-party settings that I'm going to link to within the blog. And then the other thing that I chose to do was link up to Mailchimp. So I've got some Mailchimp settings here where I say I'm going to use Mailchimp. Here's the list name that I'm going to use, the MediaBox launch notification. Here's the text that I'm going to use for that. And then here's the URL for the embed action. And they have great directions on that. Just search Mailchimp Octopress Integration and you'll find it all well documented. So then you'll spend a lot of your time in the source folders. So here you're gonna look at lots of different spots. Like if you wanted to play around with the header of the website, here's where it is. Navigation, pretty simple stuff there. Okay, the head for the site. If you want to play around with the footer, I think that's up here. And so you've got some custom areas where you can override and add your own content. Layout, so this is a post itself. I think up here though is where the article is defined. So here I actually did add in my own stuff, which is again from that Mailchimp integration. I just grabbed this snippet of code and dropped it in at the end of an article, so that at the end of every single article I'm going to have my Mailchimp integration. So I've got that. It's pulling the Mailchimp list Y, which was that thing that I added at in the config, Mailchimp list Y. So that's a little bit of the configuration that I did, and then there's some CSS that you might want to play around with as well up here in the SAS folders. This was a little more difficult to navigate. I ended up playing around with some of the CSS in lots of different files to get the look and feel just how I wanted it. But again, there's lots of documentation on how to override a lot of that stuff. And again, every time you go and make a change, you're going to want to run rake generate and then rake deploy if you're gonna set that up. So that's deploying. You can also do custom domains with GitHub. I haven't set that up myself. I'm just using the standard aa little.github.io URL, but you can certainly use your own custom domain as well. And then they've got lots of stuff here on sort of the blogging basics and stuff. So if you wanted to create a new post, make sure I'm in the right spot. If you want to create a new post, you're just going to do rake new post, and then this is some test title. Okay, and that's going to go ahead and create that, and I should see that in my markdown folder. So here's an empty post, and then if you look at one of my other posts, you see that all I did was go and add a bunch of markdown below the header of the post there. And I also added something, the author tag and comments was true. I also, in some cases, added this published equals false setting, and that makes sure that my blog doesn't post things other than what I'm ready to post. So I can go ahead and create a bunch of posts that will be published in the future, so that everything's ready, set to go, linked to one another, but then they won't show up until I set this to true and then regenerate my site. So that's kind of walking through all of the stuff on Octopress and how to create a new post. It is pretty simple to get set up. I did get caught on a few things, and hopefully I was able to point out enough here that you'll be able to sort of get going really quickly. But it is a really great platform, and I found it really gave me the control that I needed, gave me the clean design using one of the great themes that were out there, and really has kind of made it so that I get everything I want, and all hosted for free as well, which is fantastic. So that's Octopress, GitHub, a custom theme, and that's pretty much all you need to get started with a custom blog. Thanks a lot for listening. All right.